Revealed, 3 sinister suburban experiences that left families haunted for over a decade. Sarah, a 32-year-old single mother, had hoped for a fresh start in Greeley, Colorado. She moved into a quaint, cookie-cutter home with her 2 children, Emily, 8, and 6-year-old Tyler, believing she could build a stable life after her grueling divorce. The neighborhood appeared idyllic at first, neighbors sharing baked goods, school drop-off duties, and smiles that made her think she could finally breathe. Yet, as day turned to night, an unsettling tension began to seep into the corners of their lives. The late-night shifts at the diner always left her weary, dragging her through the door in the dark. Each evening felt heavier. As she trudged through the empty hallway, unease prickled against her skin. Footsteps echoed in the silence, whispers skipped away just out of earshot, and fleeting shadows danced in her peripheral vision. Sarah brushed it off, attributing it to exhaustion. But each night, the discomfort grew like a creeping vine, wrapping itself tighter around her mind. One chilly evening, after a draining night of serving, Sarah stumbled into the living room only to hear her children giggling madly in their room. Her heart swelled momentarily in relief until she remembered that it was way past bedtime. With lingering apprehension, she tiptoed to their door. "Emily, Tyler. What are you doing?" she called softly. "They're here, Mommy." Emily shot back, giddy with excitement. "Dustin's playing with us." A cold shiver snaked down Sarah's spine. "Dustin?" she echoed, her voice trembling. Imaginary friends were normal, but this one set off alarms in her mind. She dismissed her fears with a weak smile, but the unease started twisting like a storm inside her chest. As days turned into weeks, the laughter morphed into strange noises scratching against walls. Something was watching. The laughter faded, replaced by muffled whispers that wrapped threads of dread around her as the shadows grew darker with every flickering light. She asked Emily and Tyler about Dustin. Their faces went serious. Tyler said, "He doesn't like it when you're alone, Mommy." With weekdays unraveling under the weight of fear, Sarah sought solace in her neighbors, the supposedly friendly faces who had welcomed her. Mrs. Henderson, the elderly woman next door, warned her under hushed breaths. "Be careful, dear. Bad things happen at night. You want to be alone, especially when your children are asleep." She shared ghost stories of children vanishing, tales the kids found funny, but that made Sarah's blood run cold. Desperate, Sarah reached out to city officials, but her pleas were met with bureaucratic indifference. Her words were lost, drowned in red tape and disinterest. Frustration swelled within her. The idyllic neighborhood stretched before her like a cruel joke, a facade covering the darkness lurking beneath manicured lawns. It all escalated that one terrifying night. The lights flickered over the walls as shadows skittered, and she decided to dig deeper into the history of her home. What she discovered shook her to her core: missing children, whispers of a tragic event, secrets the town seemed desperate to silence. Before she could process the implications, Tyler's scream sliced through the night. Racing to their room, heart pounding, she found the door ajar. The cold air seeped through, chilling her bones. Empty. The room was void of her children. And then she saw it: a shadowy figure flickered before her, its presence solidifying the terror wrapping around her. Staring into that thick darkness, Sarah could feel the truth closing in. This neighborhood wasn't a new beginning, it was a prison woven from secrets, and the horror waiting to be revealed was all too real. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Heart racing, she took a step back. Was she truly alone, or was whatever eyed her from the darkness just waiting for her to let her guard down? She couldn't shake the feeling that this shadow was just the beginning, and whatever it was, it wanted her kids. A pit of dread settled in Sarah's stomach as the figure shifted slightly, its form barely discernible against the inky blackness. This was not just a trick of the mind. She could feel its stillness, an unnerving certainty hanging in the air like an impending storm. The shadows prickled with a life of their own, and the silence echoed with the absence of her children. Emily. Tyler. Frantic and barely able to breathe, she called out again, her voice sharp with panic. The house responded with sinister quiet, mocking her desperation. Finally, summoning every ounce of courage, she took a step forward. The air was cold, unexpectedly cold, as if it held winter's grip. With each hesitant stride, the whisper grew louder, swirling around her like a dark melody. "Mommy," the sound twisted through her heart like a dagger. It was Tyler's voice. But it felt wrong. Distorted. "Tyler," she screamed, racing to the open bedroom door. The room felt impossibly small, painted in shadow. Nothing seemed to shift or breathe, yet the sensation of eyes watching her swelled, prickling her skin. She flicked the light switch frantically, but the bulb flickered uselessly, a cruel tease mocking her plight. Then she heard it again, this time sharper, clearer. "Mommy, help us." Panic flooded her, and her breath quickened. She dashed through the dark room, her heart pounding like a war drum. Where were they? The closet loomed at the far end, a monolith of dread. Sarah ran to it, throwing the door open. Empty. Only the smell of old clothes and stale air greeted her. "No!" she shrieked, rounding back to the room, a whirlwind of horror and denial. If they weren't there, where could they be? The house was like a labyrinth, each shadow possibly hiding her children or a monster waiting to pounce. She stumbled down the hall, listening intently, straining her ears for any signs of life. Then, coming from downstairs, a rustling. The kitchen? Emily. Tyler. Frantic now, she flew down the steps, nearly tripping over the landing. The kitchen was dimly lit, casting eerie shapes on the tiles. Their small table sat at the center, undisturbed, a stark contrast to her jumbled mind. Suddenly, a soft giggle erupted from behind the fridge. Sarah's gut twisted. The sound was so innocent yet felt like an echo of the evil that stalked them. She wrenched open the fridge door, the cold air smacking her face. Nothing. Just shadows and leftovers. The laughter bubbled once more, flirtatiously taunting from the dark hollow of the kitchen. "Dustin likes to play, Mommy," she froze, feeling nauseous. The shadow, the voice, Dustin. It was aware of her fear and was feeding on it. Was he controlling her children? Did he know where they were? "Where are they? Where's Tyler?" Her voice tore through the silence, raw, desperate. "Dustin told us to hide, it's a game." The world tilted. Breathless, Sarah spun around, eyes searching frantically for that presence. Without warning, the kitchen lights flickered violently, dimming the room into a grave-like stillness. "Do you want to play too?" The voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere, wrapping around her like a noose. The shudder coursed through her, icy knives of uncertainty creeping into her veins. Did she really want to play? Just as the shadows began to close in, a loud bang resounded from the front door. Was it someone trying to help or something sinister? Heart racing, Sarah stumbled toward the sound. She might catch a glimpse of her children, or it might be the thing lurking in the darkness, waiting for her next move. Moving through the living room, she hesitated, the door looming before her. Hope and horror collided inside her chest. As she reached for the handle, the air around her felt charged, almost tangible, filled with an unspeakable presence that made her want to recoil. And in that charged moment, she pondered, was her fate sealed within this door? Or would unlocking it reveal a path to salvation or doom? Before she could choose, the handle turned without her touch, and the door creaked slowly open. The night outside swallowed her in. Darkness once again. She peered through the crack, breaths shallow with fear. What awaited her beyond that threshold? The shadows demanded an answer, and time was running out. The door swung open, releasing a gust that slithered around her like a serpent, pulling Sarah closer to the threshold. Shadows danced in the darkness beyond, flickering just out of view, as if they lived for this moment. A deep breath filled her lungs, the air stung with despair mixed into a bittersweet chill. She stood paralyzed, her gaze fixed on the inky abyss. "Mommy?" The voice materialized again, fragile and echoing. "Are you coming?" But this time, it wasn't Tyler's voice. It was a stranger's. A child's, yet devoid of innocence. It twisted inside her, a sharp reminder of everything she had lost. She took a step back, heart racing, the flickering kitchen light casting macabre shadows against the walls as if the house was alive. "Stay inside. Do not step out," Sarah commanded herself. Every instinct screamed for her to retreat, to seal the door and barricade herself in until morning. But the plea for her children strained against her resolve. "I want to let you go," she shouted into the void, her voice trembling as it ricocheted back. Silence enveloped her, pressing against her ears, a tight grip of terror. Yet the twisted laughter from the kitchen echoed again, a mocking refrain. Before she could turn and flee back into the house, a small form slipped through the open doorway. It was a girl, pale, wide-eyed, her hair wild like tangled branches. Dressed in a yellow dress that seemed at odds with the darkness around them. An unholy innocence radiated from her, barely contained yet full of menace. "Emily?" Sarah's heart faltered as she stepped forward, hope battling dread. "No," the girl whispered, her grin too wide for comfort. "I'm not her, I'm much more fun." A clammy chill brushed Sarah's skin as again, the girl vanished into the shadow, leaving only the fading echo of her giggle. Just a trick of her mind? She couldn't shake it. What game was this? What had Dustin done? "Tyler! Where are you?" she yelled, pushing past her mounting fear. Her voice strained with desperation, but nothing responded except for the silence she dreaded. The house shifted around her like a living, breathing entity. Glancing back, the kitchen loomed like a menacing maw waiting to consume her. "Stop it. This isn't funny," she shouted, her voice cracking. But the shadows gleamed with laughter, vibrating through the floorboards beneath her feet. Rushing to the front porch, she felt the numbing cold inching closer, wrapping around her ankles like tendrils of fog. "Emily!" She screamed once more, hoping the night would answer. Hope was frail now, crushed beneath the weight of dread, but her response was a soft whisper, a delicate caress brushing against the nape of her neck. "Mommy, you can't leave." Sarah whipped around, breath caught in her throat. She was met with the sight of her once familiar living room now warped into a hall of warped reflections, melding grotesque images with her memory's happy family dinners, her children laughing joyfully, all soured by the ominous presence. In a panic, Sarah darted back inside. Shadows enveloped her, whispering secrets of nights left unanswered. Why was this happening? Why was she trapped in this nightmare? Suddenly, a figure moved in the corner of her eye, darting toward the stairs. "Tyler! Tyler!" She ran forward, her feet pounding against the floor, breathless hope igniting within her. But just as quickly, he slipped away, vanishing into the dark abyss of the second floor. "No!" Sarah screamed, the sound echoing through the oppressive silence. There was no time for fear. With determination ignited, she launched herself up the stairs, each step heavier than the last. Emerging in the hallway, the darkness shifted, as if it were alive and aware of her presence. A door at the end of the hall glinted ominously. "Mommy, please hurry." The voice was clear now, Tyler's, beckoning her with frightened urgency. But should she trust it? As she wrestled with her choice, an apparition coiled out of the wall, narrowing its focus on her. The air thickened, stifling her breath. "Will you play?" It sang softly, a sickly sweet tone that twisted her gut. With a scream, Sarah lunged for the last door, knowing only despair awaited her if she stayed. Would she step through into safety, or was it just another trap? The handle felt cold beneath her fingers, and without a second thought, she pushed the door open, as terror hung thick in the air, ready to consume her whole. And then there was nothing but darkness. The door swung wide, and the darkness swallowed Sarah whole. A heavy weight settled on her chest, smothering her frantic breaths. The air was stale, tasting of long-forgotten memories and lost laughter, echoing only whispers of the past. She stumbled into what felt like an endless void, unsure of where she stood. "Tyler?" She called out, her voice wavering and cracking, a haunting ripple in the thick silence. "Mommy," the reply came, faint and distant, pulling her deeper into the shadow. It was her son's voice, laced with urgency, but the echo of it twisted as it died away. Gritting her teeth, Sarah pushed through, forcing herself to move, to search. She reached into the dark, fingers brushing against the wall, smooth yet damp, as if the very structure of her home was weeping. She stopped, feeling the wall pulse beneath her touch, beating like a heart. With each cautious step, the shadows clung tighter, wrapping around her legs like icy chains. Panic surged within her. She had to find Tyler. He needed her. But the darkness seemed sentient, alive, shifting in response to her fear. A low rumble echoed around her, like a growl vibrating through the floor beneath her, unsettling and primal. "Mommy, I'm scared," came Tyler's voice again, closer now. "Where are you?" she shouted, her resolve strengthening against the tide of despair. "I'm here." He was right there, and yet the darkness warped her perception. She lunged forward, arms outstretched, desperate to connect, to clutch her son and shield him from whatever haunted them. A flicker of light pierced through the heavy blackness, dancing just ahead. Something glimmered, a keyhole in the thick shroud. She could see the outline of a door, faint but promising. Hope surged. Could it mean escape? But as she hurried closer, shadows twisted around her feet, pulling at her. "No!" she gasped, forcing herself to tear free. The darkness screamed in response, a cacophony of whispers and laughter surrounding her, pushing back against her will. "Tyler! Please!" she shouted, her heart racing as she slammed a fist against the doorframe, feeling the frigid wood against her palm. "Tell me where you are." "Mommy, don't leave." His voice was strained now, shaky, tinged with fear that wrapped around her like barbed wire. The door before her shimmered, and the darkness split, revealing a flicker of light through the keyhole. She pressed her eye against it, heart pounding, breath caught. Inside, the room was alive with a blinding glow, and there, illuminated beneath the arch of warm light, stood her son. Yet something was off. Shadows wrapped around him, pulling him into the far corner, and she couldn't see his face clearly. Panic clawed at her. "Tyler!" she gasped, fear fracturing her voice. She twisted the knob, but it wouldn't budge. "I'm coming." She kicked at the door, fueled by a maternal rage. The wood splintered, but the shadows pushed back, flowing like smoke, consuming her desperation. "No!" And then, a figure appeared behind her. She turned, and dread suffocated her. The pale girl with wild hair stepped from the shadows, her grin wide, like a crescent moon, eyes glistening with malevolence. "Don't you want to play?" she crooned, tilting her head in eerie anticipation. "Get away from him!" Sarah screamed, her voice tearing through the air, but the little figure just laughed, a sound that echoed with youthful innocence twisted into something monstrous. An explosion of darkness engulfed her, pulling her down, spiraling into a bottomless pit of desperation. "Mommy!" Tyler's voice faded, the light shrinking, the door slipping away as the shadows wrapped tighter, weaving into her very soul. Everything went silent, but the cold, mocking laughter remained, a promise of terror lingering in the air, and in the depths of the dark, a truth whispered, cruel and revelatory. "Will you choose to play with us?" In the silence that followed, a chill crept up her spine as she realized she was no longer alone. What had she unleashed? She blinked, and the darkness twitched. It was alive, slithering and writhing constantly, feeding off her fear. She could feel her pulse echoing loudly in her ears, drowning the sound of the girl's laughter, yet it was still there, lurking like a predator. Sarah fought to steady her breath, but the fear clawed at her throat, squeezing the air from her lungs. "Tyler!" She cried out again, desperation lacing her voice. "Where are you?" But the silence wrapped around her, thick and wet. The shadows intensified, swirling like a storm ready to break. She turned back towards the door, but in the space of a heartbeat, it was gone. The glimmering light extinguished like a blown candle, and she was left standing in a vast, consuming darkness. "Mommy," came Tyler's voice again, clearer, closer, but twisted with sorrow, hovering just at the edges of the void. It filled her chest with ice. "Please. Talk to me." She spun on her heels, heart racing, but the oppressive shadows only answered with silence, as if they were laughing at her pleas. The little girl's laughter broke through the stillness again, infectious and chilling. "Want you play?" she cooed, voice dripping with delight, her grin showing too many teeth. Horror shot through Sarah. How could she play when her son was in danger? The thought of him consumed by darkness sent icy tendrils of dread gnawing at her sanity. She took a step toward the child, aiming to grab her and shake answers out of her, but the shadows flared. "Stay here." A voice whispered from the shadows, sounding eerily like her husband, the warmth of familiarity twisted into something sinister. The memory hit hard, and the emotional resonance made her waver. With a trembling hand, she reached towards the fake warmth spun from twisted shadows. "Get away from my son. You don't belong here," she screamed, but doubt weaved through her words. In this forsaken space, maybe she was the interloper, the little girl giggled, her laughter reconvening in dissonant harmony with the soft, taunting voice of her husband. "You offer him no escape, he likes it here. We all do. That's a lie." Sarah shot back, but the shadows seemed to clamp down tighter around her, mocking her defiance. Suddenly, a glimmer sparked in the darkness, an echo of that buried light. Something fluttered just beyond her reach. "Tyler." The name burst from her lips, and she lunged toward it, driven by a wild, frantic hope. The shadows surged, threatening to swallow her entirely. And then she saw him. Through a sudden fracture of darkness, Tyler was there, staring wide-eyed and frightened. He stood in another world anchored by light. "Mommy. Hold on, sweetie. I'm coming." But as she reached, a force yanked her back, yanking chains of despair from the dark. "Let her go." His terrified voice rang out, pierced by an all-consuming howl of raw emptiness that threatened to drown them both. "Mommy, help." She felt the pull of the void, desperately clawing, straining against the darkness consuming her mind. Fear driven deep inside screamed back at her. What if the shadows wanted her son too? What if the laughter echoed with the joyous hunger of childhood, twisted into something insatiable? "Tyler!" she cried, lunging again, the darkness surging around her till she was on the brink of splintering. "Please, don't leave me. Mommy, please don't let them win." It was just a moment. She could almost see his face clear now, through the shifting veil of shadows inching forward again. They twisted and turned, like fingernails scraping against the walls of reality. With a fierce rally of strength, Sarah steadied herself. "I won't lose you," she whispered, the promise igniting in her heart. The girl stepped closer, the shadows shifting around her with glee. "Then come and play, just let him go." But the little girl's smile widened, stretching impossibly wide. "You know the game. We play until there's nothing left." Darkness closed in, a tide swelling against her. Teeth rattled within her skull, and in that moment, she felt the weight of choice bearing down on her. Should she fight or submit to the game? As the shadows lurched forward, she took a deep breath, weighed her choices, and with one last scream, threw herself into the fray, into the fold of darkness, where light dared not tread. With that, the laughter swelled, promising both fun and tragedy, and a horrible truth lingered in her mind. What hidden horrors lay waiting in the depths beyond the game? The moment she plunged into the darkness, she felt the chilling embrace wrap around her like icy chains. It squeezed tighter, pulling her from the glimmer of hope she had found in Tyler's voice. Shadows enveloped her, crafting tendrils that clawed at her mind, whispering doubts and dread. The laughter grew louder, echoing in her ears, drowning out her racing thoughts. "Mommy! Help!" Tyler's voice pierced the air again, sounding both desperate and far away. Each plea was a dagger, stabbing into her heart, fueling her resolve. But the shadows danced, undulating in delight at her struggle. The little girl stood at the center, a puppet master with a malevolent grin. "You're so close," she taunted, a sing-song quality to her words. "But the closer you get, the further he drifts away." Sarah felt her stomach churn at the realization. The darkness wasn't just a barrier, it was a labyrinth, shifting and changing every second. Each step filled her with more uncertainty, and the echo of her son's voice began to distort, warping into something twisted. "Tyler! Don't stop talking!" she yelled, her voice cracking. "Just keep saying my name." "Mommy, I'm scared." The voice trembled, pulling at the cords of helplessness in Sarah's chest. "Then fight. Fight with me." Her desperation resonated in the void, combined with the primal urge for survival that coursed through her veins. The air thickened, suffocating her with despair. Shadows clawed hungrily, whispering lies of abandonment and failure. "You're a bad mother. You can't even save your own child," they hissed, voices overlapping into a cacophony of accusations. "No. Stop it." She clamped her hands over her ears, shaking her head as if that could drown them out. But the shadows only shrieked louder, spinning the fabric of her fears into a gross tapestry of guilt and shame. "Too late. You're losing him." The girl sang, twirling on her toes, the shadows now echoing her movements. Suddenly, a flash of light broke through the suffocating dark, a flicker that illuminated Tyler's face, filled with terror, shaking with fear. For a split second, she could see the connection, his eyes locked onto hers. "Stay strong, buddy. I'm right here," Sarah called out, her heart hammering in her chest as she fought through the shadows. Each step forward felt like walking through molasses, heavy and pulling her back. "Mommy!" Tyler cried, reaching toward her. Then the shadows lunged, consuming the space between them. A deep howl erupted, wrapping around Tyler, a dark hand stretching out and grasping his little frame. Sarah's scream shattered the darkness. "Tyler!" With one desperate lunge, she charged at the girl, aiming for the flicker of light. The taste of metallic dread filled her mouth as the shadows retaliated, tightening their grip around her throat. She gasped for breath, her vision blurring. "Play with us, Mommy." The girl sang, voice dripping with sweetness that twisted into something foul. "We only want to have fun." But beneath it, a sinister undertone lingered, like a predator's growl beneath soft fur. A distant rumble echoed from the depths of the blackness, reverberating with a warning. Shadows shivered, driven by their own hunger. "Sarah!" The call came clear this time, shattering through the din. It wasn't just silence or laughter, it was her husband's voice, laced with urgency but charged with something darker. "You need to choose." She felt the air grow thick, a decision weighing on her fragile psyche. "Choose what?" A rumble of laughter cascaded around her in response. "Choose the game or lose him forever." In that moment, dread gripped Sarah's heart. What could she sacrifice? What could possibly save Tyler from the dark? As shadows clawed for her sanity, she had to decide: save herself or take the plunge into the sinister game. Her resolve caught fire, and just as time seemed to freeze, she shouted into the void, "No more games. Let him go." But as the laughter erupted in wicked glee, she realized, what if the game had already begun? The shadows pulsed, hungry and restless. Sarah felt her voice dissolve into the thick air, absorbed by the darkness that twisted around her. The girl's laughter echoed like shattered glass. It wasn't just a game, it was a trap, and she was caught in the center of it. "Mommy." Tyler's voice folded over itself, each iteration drowning in a whirlpool of panic. She strained to stay anchored, focusing on the image of her son, terrified but fighting to remain connected despite the consuming dark. "Tyler!" she shouted, pushing through the heaviness that threatened to drag her down. The ground beneath her felt unstable, shifting like quicksand. The girl twisted, her face a haunting visage framed by churning shadows, delighting in Sarah's torment. "We play for keeps. But you're the one who must lose something precious. Stop it." "I'm not giving you anything," Sarah cried, stoking the fire of her desperation. "What about your happiness?" the girl teased, her voice a silk-lined weapon. "Or your precious memories? Let us make a deal." She raised her tiny hand, and trails of shadows slithered from it, morphing into scenes that tugged at Sarah's heart. Flickers of sunny afternoons in the park, Tyler's laughter ringing out, the first day of kindergarten. Each memory felt bright, vivid, yet the clouds of darkness loomed, twisting them into something sinister. "Don't you want to keep those forever?" the girl asked, her smile widening, revealing sharp, glistening teeth. "You could have both." "Just one little sacrifice," Sarah fired back, shaking her head violently. "No. Never. I wouldn't trade my son for anything." As she denied the girl, the laughter chipped away at her resolve. Tendrils of shadow danced closer, wrapping around her arms, pulling her back. They hissed promises into her ear, taunting her, feeding off her fear. "Tyler! Don't listen!" Sarah screamed, frantic as she felt the connection between them wavering. Every second lost brought him closer to the abyss. "Mommy, please. I don't want to play this game." His voice trembled, cracking her heart. "Then you have to fight. Fight as hard as you can." With every breath, strength surged through her, reminding her of the bond they shared, a tether that no darkness could sever. The shadows reeled for a moment, disbelief echoing in the void as she summoned every ounce of courage, building a wall against the encroaching dread. "My love for Tyler will never be a sacrifice." Suddenly, the darkness crackled. She felt something shift, a wave of energy, radiating from her heart. The shadows hissed, retreating slightly, their grip loosening just enough for her to stumble forward. "Mommy! I see you!" Tyler yelled, his voice breaking through the haze, fooling the shadows for a moment longer. "Hold on. I'm coming." But as she lunged, the malevolent girl screeched, startling her into hesitation. "You think you can outplay me?" She snapped her fingers, and the world shook. Suddenly, shapes emerged from the shadows, figures that flickered like dying flames. Faces of children, all lost, all pleading. "It's not just you who must choose," panic surged in Sarah's chest. The images deluged her, a storm of demands and desires, each a ghost trapped in the dark, begging for salvation. "Listen to us," they chorused, voices intertwining into a haunting melody. "Let go of your precious memories." No, she thought, fighting to maintain her grip on reality. Each face was a reminder of childhood innocence. Dark shadows of sacrifice filled the air, the girl twirled, relishing her moment. What happens when you're faced with your own darkest fears? What will you throw away? As terror clawed at her heart, the shadows moved closer. Sarah could feel each heartbeat in her ears, drowning everything. "Save him or save yourself," the girl stretched her grin, revealing a cavern of despair. The whirlwind consumed the brightness, and Sarah was left teetering on a precipice. A riddle she couldn't unfurl loomed over her as Tyler called again, "Mommy." Facing the shadows, she felt her strength falter. Was there even a choice, or was history bound to repeat itself in ways she couldn't foresee? "Fight with me, Tyler." But amidst the chaos, she knew darkness will always ask for sacrifices. And the girl cackled, already poised for the next round, relishing the uncertainty. Now, what will you do? Because in this dark world, choices don't come without consequence. The shadows recoiled, as if stung by her defiance, but the girl only laughed, her eyes gleaming with mirth that twisted Sarah's stomach. "Oh, sweet Sarah," she taunted, "you think you can resist forever?" The darkness breathed around her, feeling more alive than ever, creeping into every fissure in her resolve. The faces of the lost children swirled in a cloud, empty eyes watching her, yearning for freedom. With each pulse of shadow, Sarah felt the pull towards something dark, something that could promise safety if only she would give in. "Tyler, stay with me," she shouted, forcing her will into the void. Every shriek that came from the girl faded into a distant echo, drowned out by the fierce pounding of her heart. The shadows grabbed at her, icy fingers grazing her skin, making it hard to breathe. Sarah locked her knees, unwilling to be dragged further into despair. "Do you see?" The girl flicked her wrist, and a new image bloomed within the swirling shadows, a perfect family portrait in a frame. They were at the park, the sun casting golden light, and there was Tyler, grinning from ear to ear. Sarah felt cracks forming in her heart. That memory was no longer just a memory, it was a wound. "Your joy could stay like this, forever," the girl whispered, "but reality is full of suffering." She tilted her head, letting her hair fall like curtains of raven black to frame her terrifying smile. "What will it take for you to release that burden? To let it shine forever? Leave him alone." Sarah lunged forward, but the darkness pulled her back, strong and unforgiving. She was losing ground, drifting further away from her son's voice. "Please, Tyler. Just hold on. Mommy." His plea was drenched in fear, and each call chipped at her resolve, piercing right through the veil of shadows. "I'm here, I see you. Just come to me." The girl's laughter echoed. "That's it. Let the love for your child guide you." Guided? Sarah gasped at the irony. The very love she fought to protect was now being woven into this deadly tapestry of grievances, terror lurking in every corner. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, her voice cracking like thunder. "I want you to make a choice," the girl crooned, her tone dripping with malice. "What's the weight of one little sacrifice when held up against everything you hold dear?" The world shifted again. In a blink, Tyler's figure fluctuated, flickering in and out of existence with each heartbeat. Sarah felt desperation clawing at her, wrapping tight around her throat like a noose. "I can't lose you. I can't." Panic seized her, twisting her gut. She was drowning, fighting against the currents, and the shadows retracted momentarily, sensing her turmoil. "Just surrender," the girl hissed, her form shifting darker, more twisted. "It could be so easy." "Easy?" Sarah spat back, rage fueling her. "You think I'd ever make it easy for you?" With each word, the shadows began to falter. Those moments with Tyler, so vivid and true, ignited a fire within her. A conflict brewed, a tempest tugging at the roots of her spirit. Sarah knew the stakes were higher than life or death, they were about every memory, every laugh, every bond she formed. "Fight, Tyler!" she cried, channeling her will towards him. "Find me through the dark." As if summoned from the depths, Tyler's silhouette stood stronger, brighter than the dampening shadows that swirled around him. "I'm trying, Mommy. I'm right here." But just as Sarah felt a surge of hope, the girl erupted into a furious scream, the ground trembling beneath them. "Enough!" The shadows surged back, violent and relentless, threatening to swallow everything whole. The darkness coalesced, growing thicker, pressing in on all sides, tightening its grip. Sarah's heart raced, and the certainty of her failures began to settle in like heavy fog. The girl's laughter echoed, manic and joyous, a twisted symphony. "Your choice is coming, Sarah. Remember, Some things can never be reclaimed. And in that moment, she realized the true horror of their game. Would she sacrifice what she loved most, or would she take a stand against the shadows that trembled with the weight of her fight? Time hung heavy, pregnant with tension, as the shadows recoiled around her. What will she choose? The air felt electric with potential devastation, a choice that would echo for eternity. Would she ignite the spark of light within or drown in her worst nightmare? The next moment could shatter everything. A whirling darkness encased Sarah, the girl's twisted smile becoming a focal point of her despair. The shadows seemed to wait, hungry and expectant, as if the decision loomed like a thunderstorm overhead, ready to unleash chaos. Choose. The word resonated, squeezing her heart until she thought it might burst. Around her, the shadows danced, taunting and animated, like a malevolent audience eager for the climax of a sinister play. What will you give to save him? New memories flickered in the darkness, moments from Tyler's childhood, the sweet laughter in their home, the weekend trips to the lake where the sun hit the water just right. Each flash twisted like a knife in her gut, carving deeper with every insistence that so much happiness could be lost. I want to let you take him. Sarah shouted, desperation fueling her refusal. But with every ounce of strength she drew, the shadows thrust back harder, a vice around her lungs. They were relentless, and she could feel the warmth of hope fraying like an old rope. The girl leaned closer, her voice a conspiratorial whisper dripping with malice. But it's not just his life at stake, Sarah, think of your own suffering. Let it wash away with the sacrifice. Embrace the quiet. It's what you truly want. Yet, as panic clouded her judgment, she caught a glimmer of something solid behind the shadows. No. I want to submit to your twisted game. She gasped, channeling all her love, all her rage, toward the flickering image of her son. I will fight. The girl's eyes flared, malevolence shining like flint. Fight? You mistake desperation for strength. You're but one heartbeat away from losing everything. Sarah felt the shadows throb with anticipation, a sinister harmony thrumming like a heartbeat in the silence. They tightened their grip, and her breath quickened, each inhale tasting of bitter dread. Is that how this ends? With you buried beneath your own memories? The girl lifted her hand, and around them, shadows reshaped to form monstrous replicas of all Sarah loved, a warped reality of everything torn from her grasp. Mommy? Tyler's voice echoed, a ghost woven into the thick darkness. Don't leave me. I'm scared. The trembling in his voice cracked her heart. Each tremor became a cry, a plea that reverberated within her, the innermost part of her screaming against the inevitability. It felt as if the void was about to swallow the very essence of her being, and a spark flared within her chest, igniting fury against the girl and the shadows alike. Then let us go together. She cried, defiance coursing through her veins. I want to let you take him, not now, not ever. The shadows hissed, recoiling from her fierce proclamation. Instead of backing down, they rushed at her, but she felt something shift, a moment of clarity that felt like a pulse of light against the dark. Tyler. Hold on. I'm coming. With a fierce roar, she pushed against the shadows, her will crashing against them like a tidal wave. But just as clarity reigned, the ground beneath trembled, and with a bone-rattling crack, the world contorted again, twisted and bending back around her. What have you done? The girl shrieked, panic lacing her voice. You should have let go. Now you will suffer for it. Rising chaos enveloped Sarah, the darkness swirling in a violent fury, tightening its grip like a noose. For every bond forged by love, it took dozens more forged with agony. Mommy. Tyler's voice, now a faint whisper, fought against the roar of the encroaching darkness, but suddenly, the shadows began to shake, their form convulsing as if struggling against an unseen force. Gaps erupted, revealing glimpses of the outside world, a light that shone bright, a promise of freedom. Sarah. The girl's voice was now a hiss, infused with venom. You cannot escape. This is your fate. And yet, in that moment, Sarah sensed something else bubbling within her, sheer will bathed in determination. The shadows trembled, and so did she. The pressure was immense. What would happen if she pushed that spark of light further? Could she fully embrace it, or would the darkness extinguish it first? As the tension in her chest reached its peak, she felt the invisible divide waver. Would she be able to seize that light before all was lost, or would it slip through her fingers like sand? The final moment hung in the air, a nail-biting anticipation of what was to come. In that climactic moment, everything hung in the balance. The shadows thrashed, their grip tightening as panic seeped through their darkness. But Sarah felt an ember of defiance igniting within her. She could see Tyler's face, flickering like a candle in the storm. His fear etched deep lines on his little forehead, but behind that terror, there was still hope. "Mommy. I'm scared." His voice rang clear, cutting through the noise of the shadows that roared around her. She summoned all her strength, channeling her love and determination, feeling it creep through her body like fire. "I'm coming, buddy. Just hold on." The world surged around her, swirling shadows howling as if their hold on her was slipping. With every heartbeat, Sarah focused on Tyler, on the love that had held them together through everything. The glimmer of light from the cracks in the darkness flickered more brightly. "I will save you," she roared, her voice a fierce declaration that surged against the chaotic tide. Gritting her teeth, Sarah reached deep inside herself, digging for that raging fire. With one last, determined push, she lifted her arms high, willing the brightness to burst free. "Let him go. I choose love." In that shout, every parent's absolute strength came roaring to life. The shadows shrieked, the walls constricting as the girl's laughter turned shrill. Panicked, the darkness buckled and screamed as traits of light shot through like bolts of freedom. It radiated with warmth and purity, tearing through doubt and despair. Suddenly, the shadows recoiled, the forms of lost children flickering and fading, their anguished expressions twisting into fleeting hope. "No!" The girl shrieked, anger boiling in her voice as if she could feel her power unraveling. But Sarah's resolve was immovable. Love surged powerfully at her core, whispering through her heart like a lifeline. "You don't control us. You will never take him." With a deafening roar, the darkness collided against the light, clashing violently until everything erupted in a tempest of blinding radiance. Sarah felt herself propelled forward, breaking the chains binding her beneath the weight of sorrow. Then silence enveloped her, the world opened up beneath her feet, the light engulfing her completely. With a jolt, she blinked, eyes adjusting to the dawn shining brightly outside. A warm breeze swept through, and she found herself back in the hallway of her home. Sunlight spilled through the windows, painting everything golden. "Tyler!" she gasped, her heart racing. Fear tinged each syllable, but the light eased that weight. "Tyler!" A small voice echoed from the kitchen. "Mommy?" The sound was innocent, and it cracked her heart wide open. Sarah rushed toward the sound, her feet nearly stumbling over themselves in the frenzy of hope. "I'm coming, baby." She burst into the kitchen, and there he was, Tyler, standing at the table, healthy and smiling as though nothing had happened. The shadows had receded like a bad dream. "Mommy." He ran past the table and into her arms. The sweetness of his embrace washed over her in waves of relief, filling every crack and crevice within her heart. "Oh, thank goodness." She wept, holding him tightly, her tears spilling over in gratitude. "I thought I lost you." From the corner of her eye, she caught movement. Emily came bursting in, wide-eyed and full of energy, her laughter echoing like music. "Can we have pancakes?" In that moment, the weight of the past crumbled away, leaving only the dawn of a new day behind. "Of course. Pancakes for everyone." Sarah laughed through her tears, feeling the warmth of their love wrap around her like a gentle hug, yet as they settled down at the table, a shiver ran down Sarah's spine. She wouldn't forget the shadows, the darkness that almost took her children. But she knew they had faced it and won, together. They would be stronger for it. And as the sunlight cascaded through the window, it felt like a promise, a vow of brighter days ahead, filled with love, laughter, and resilience. With that weight lifted, Sarah looked around, a sense of peace flooding in like an old friend. And then it hit her, a fierce determination blossomed in her heart. She knew she needed to share their story. She would tell everyone about the darkness that lurks in the shadows, how love prevailed against the odds. As they enjoyed their breakfast, Sarah couldn't help but smile. "We're a family," she whispered, looking up at her children. "And we can conquer any." Game behind her, though, a small corner of shadow flickered momentarily before vanishing, but for now, she would focus on her new beginning and the cozy little home they'd built together, for brighter days awaited them. In this moment of sweet relief, she felt compelled to share her story, her journey through darkness into the light. Tales of haunted suburbs might just save another family from walking that tortured path. Now listen up. This is the moment you need to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future stories that will leave you breathless. Smash that like button now to help with the algorithm. Your support means the world. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories. I want to hear from you. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of your support for the channel. Let's spread the word.